Well, good morning. First of all, I'd like to thank everyone for joining us here for this very important announcement today. We are here today because public safety remains our top priority in Macon-Bibb County. This includes promoting public safety at the Bibb County Law Enforcement Center. Today, we are announcing significant new and expanded initiatives to make that facility and our community whole and safer. The initiatives that we will discuss today are the result of months of planning, research, conversations, and collaborations. We have several important partners that we have here today, and we will introduce those as we get to them in the program. But I want to thank each and every one of them for taking my calls, for taking time to meet with me, to have open, candid conversations, some that got a little testy, some that got a little emotional, but all for the good of Macon-Bibb County. I know these requests often came on the weekend, sometimes in the evening, late at night, but not a single person ever complained about the work. Thank you for your commitment to this process. As we will discuss a little bit later on, each of you will be an integral part of the success, the transformative work we're about to undertake together. Today does mark an important major milestone in our long-term plan to make our community safer, smarter, and more just for everyone. Before we talk about the details of these new initiatives, I want to first acknowledge the recent tragic events at the Law Enforcement Center, where several inmates were injured, and one young man in particular, Mr. Briel Jaheen Johnson, died. I've been in touch with members of his family. I plan on meeting them in the very near future to discuss some options. But sympathy alone is not enough. We all know that. So I'm going to provide you a summary of what we will talk about today. These are our new initiatives that we're announcing at this time. So we're announcing 6 interconnected initiatives. Number 1 is the formation of the Macon Justice and Wellness Task Force. Number 2, we'll be launching a full inmate audit. Number 3, we will be launching a program called Macon Justice Works. Number 4, enhancing and expanding the Macon InReach program. Number 5, creating a jail-based competency restoration program. And finally, today we'll be releasing our request for qualifications to begin the process of planning for a jail expansion. As many of you know, before becoming mayor, I practiced as an attorney for some 30 years. All of that in Macon-based. But during my 30 years of experience, I had the opportunity to represent people, individuals that had issues similar to those that are in the law enforcement center during their incarceration and after their incarceration. At that same time, I had the pleasure to work at the district attorney's office, even prosecuting cases, but helping do legal research as well for almost 8 years. I've also had the opportunity to visit jails across the state of Georgia to compare what they had going on compared to what we have going on here in Macon. I had the opportunity to look at their systems and to practice law there to know what they do right and we can do better. That is part of the personal experience that I bring to this table, not as your mayor, but as someone who has practiced law, who has been on both sides of the equation, someone who has been there with the victim. We've been there with the person who committed the crime to learn all the intricacies of what we're doing here today. That's how I know that facilities, while they are important, our work must be more comprehensive, and I can assure you it will be. So where do we begin as we work to make our community safer and the LAC safer? We begin with what we know has worked. These programs fall underneath the nationally recognized Macon Violence Prevention Program because they are indeed designed to prevent violent crime. Macon violence prevention has already helped reduce the homicides in Macon-Bibb County since 2021 by 45%. It's also received accolades like the Visionary City Award for the state of Georgia and the national recognition for the community justice. You know, the key to success for the Macon Violence Prevention Program is the buy-in at every level and a fully collaborative approach among our partners that you see here today. We will implement that same model here with the appointment of our Macon Justice and Wellness Task Force that will operate as part of the MVP program. This time, I'd like to have those that are in our Macon Violence Prevention Program to stand and be recognized. Thank you all for being here today. Thank you for the work that you've done in the past, but more importantly, thank you for the work that you're about to do in the future. Now, before we talk about each specific initiative, it is important to take a moment to acknowledge the values that will guide our work together. This is something that I believe that we all share. First, we will always make safety our top priority for all involved. Let me be clear, none of these initiatives are a get-out-of-jail card free for violent offenders. If you commit a violent crime in Macon-Bibb County, you will be sent to jail, you will stay in jail. We have our district attorney here today that will make that happen, and we have our sheriff that will make that happen, as well as our judges. These programs mainly charge or target nonviolent offenders. This is not being soft on crime. This is being smart on crime. Second, we must eliminate a two-tier justice system where individuals who can afford it are at home, while those that cannot are in jail. One way we can do this is an ankle monitor that those who cannot afford it could get out of jail. Today, we are leveling that playing field by absorbing the cost of community monitoring for nonviolent offenders. It's a smart thing to do. It's a fiscally responsible thing to do. And it's something that we have to do. Third, we will be accountable. A lot of people use that word all the time and don't know the meaning of it. We will be accountable. We will implement only evidence-based programs that show promise in other communities. Our implementation will monitor and evaluate how they are working here on an ongoing basis. And fourth, we must be fiscally responsible, and we will be. We estimate the initiatives we are discussing today will result in a savings of over $2.5 million per year to Macon-Bibb County taxpayers, while at the same time creating better outcomes for individuals who would otherwise be incarcerated. So this time I'll go through each of these initiatives. As you all know, I've never been one to do things halfway. The initiatives here we described today are very bold, evidence-based programs that have worked in other communities, and I see no reason they cannot work in our community. So first of all, we're going to talk about the Macon Justice and Wellness Task Force. The success of these initiatives will depend on the commitment of elected officials and community leaders whose work naturally intersects with activities of this and related programs. Following the successful MVP collaborative model, a Macon Justice and Wellness Task Force will be appointed to address improving outcomes for both the community and for individuals who are incarcerated or who are eligible to be incarcerated at the Bibb County Law Enforcement Center. The task force will be ongoing. They will interface regularly with the MVP multidisciplinary team. Here are some of the activities of the task force, but they're not limited to just what I'm saying today. In just a moment, we'll recognize those on the task force, and I'll ask them to join me at the podium. One of the first things the task force will be doing is researching the effective, evidence-based programs that may benefit Macon-Bibb County. Second, they will be recommending programs based on that research. And third, they will help track and evaluate the effectiveness of the programs. Fourth, they will provide periodic reports to the Macon Violence Prevention Program multidisciplinary team. So at this time, I'd ask the task force to join me here at the podium as I introduce their titles and recognize them. A course, as mayor, I will be on that task force, and if I cannot serve on that task force, I will do a designee. And for each of these positions, I'll name the position as well as let you know that each one of them from time to time may have a designee. Let's start out with our Macon-Bibb County Sheriff's Department. Today we have Mr. Patterson to be with us today. Thank you for coming up here. Macon Judicial Circuit District Attorney Anita Howard. Macon-Bibb County Solicitor Rebecca Grice. Our Macon-Bibb County Public Defender Rick Waller. Chief Judge of Superior Court, Macon Judicial Circuit, and their representative. They're actually sitting on the bench as we do dispersing judgment. And I spoke with Judge Raymond just a few moments ago, and they'll have a representative here. We have our clinical director, River Edge Behavioral Health, as well as Mr. Cass Hatcher, who's here today, if you don't mind coming up here. Our Macon Violence Prevention Coordinator, Mr. Jeremy Grissom. Our Macon-Bibb County Probate Judge, Ms. Sarah Harris. We will also have an inmate representative that this task force will select to make sure that our inmates are properly represented on this task force. And we have someone from the reentry programs and organizations that will be part of this task force as well, because we know that a lot of these folks need help reentering back into our community, especially our jobs, and additional community partners and stakeholders as needed. Several of you on this room will be called upon from time to time for your expertise to add to this program. So as we begin to discuss these individual items that we talked about this morning, I want to talk a little bit about this inmate audit. Before we can solve problems, we need a full understanding of the current status of those that are incarcerated in the LEC. Just makes sense, right? At the review list, we see how many people are in there for certain types of crimes, whether or not they have probation holds on them, whether or not they have bonds that they cannot reach, or whether or not they're waiting on treatment or to get evaluated. And those are some of the things that we have to evaluate. I'm very excited to learn already just over the last several days, many of these people behind me have already begun that process. We believe that we can accomplish this complete inmate audit in the next 30 days. So think about this. What if I told you that we can safely transition approximately 150 nonviolent offenders to community supervision with ankle monitors, allowing 150 people to opportunity to support themselves and their families by working? We can do that. And then by doing so, we can free up the law enforcement center, and taxpayers will save approximately $2.5 million per year and have a better staff to inmate ratio. We can do that, and yes, we will do that. The safety and effectiveness of the program is backed by research and experience of communities where similar programs are in place. For example, the National Institute of Justice study on a similar program in Florida showed 31% reduction in recidivism by instituting this program. A 2020 analysis published in the Journal of Criminal Justice found electronic monitoring significantly reduces reoffending. A U.S. Senate Judicial Committee Subcommittee on Criminal Justice and Counterterrorism shows studies that listen to this number, less than 1% of those confined at home under the CARES Act reoffended. Perhaps more importantly, our partners who work with these individuals every day, these judges, these prosecutors, these public defenders, the sheriff fully support this program, and that's important. We can do this, and we can do it safely while providing support needed to the individuals successfully completing this program. What are some key components of the program? Number one, the electronic monitoring. To me personally, as a citizen of Macon-Bibb County, I want the folks that have an opportunity to work to be able to work. And I want everyone to have an equal opportunity to have gainful employment. And I don't want someone sitting in a jail because they cannot make a low bond, while someone who has the ability to work or the funds to do that is allowed to stay out. Mandatory employment if physically able to work in structured programs. So if someone is released from this, from the LEC on an ankle monitoring, if they're able to work, we're going to require that they work. That's why we're looking at programs like Mr. Roger Jackson. Mr. Jackson is right here. His adult readiness program that's shown to be very successful in training people with skills and linking them up to jobs. That's why we have good organizations like the Hunter Black Man that I know is going to be a valid partner that can help us find these young men and women jobs. That's why we have several businesses that I personally contact and ask them, can you hire one? Can you hire two? We'll make sure they go through the same progress, but we do not want the fact that they have an ankle monitor or the fact that they may have made a bad mistake in the past lose their ability to have gainful employment. Representatives of River Edge will also be helping for those that can't work, that may have some type of disability that requires some outpatient treatment. And from speaking to the commissioner at the state, Georgia Department, as well as from Cass and his staff there, we're satisfied that not only his business can do that, but others can participate as well to continue to provide that type of wraparound service and case management that many of these folks desperately need. Again, an estimated $2.5 million in savings annually. If you take the cost that it costs each inmate that we have to house, and the numbers are all over the place, from $60 to $70 on local levels to as much as $120 per inmate per day on the state level compared to what we pay for electronic monitoring. Macon-Bibb County has successfully negotiated with a local monitoring team approved by the sheriff at A1 Monitoring to give us a county discount that we can do to make sure that we can meet those obligations. We can also support jail renovations by reducing the overcrowding that may be at the jail. So this program that we're talking about right now, it begins immediately. And by immediately, I mean this week. We will begin to enroll eligible individuals who would otherwise be incarcerated. We're also talking to our judges, many of which who agree that in certain instances that we can use this tool as an alternative sentencing where they can have the monitor on and never step foot into the jail, but be held to the same standards that someone on probation would be, as also maintain employment or their mental health treatment. Based on an earlier review of the inmate information that I fully expect that we can have over a period of time up to 150 people that are eligible for this program, thus reducing the population in the LEC. That's 150 people that have an opportunity to support their families, their kids, not to be in cell blocks with more violent offenders. As a lawyer, I saw way too many times an individual that I had represented, perhaps on some small nonviolent charge where they made a mistake. And during that period of time, that young man had a job and he was taking care of one or two children, whether it's child support or taking care of them at home. And far too many times he stayed in jail for 60, 90 days and lost his job. And unbeknownst to him, while he was at that jail losing his job, he lost his license because he wasn't paying child support. And then when he got out of jail, guess what happened? He wanted to go back to work, and sometimes he did. But guess what he didn't do? He didn't know about the suspended license or didn't care about it because he had to support his family. So he chose to do what? That's right, he chose to drive. And in my corner, thank you for being here today. He chose to drive anyway because that's what he had to do. That's the decision he had to make. And he ended up going before sometimes our solicitor right here, our DA, and our judge. And guess what? He continued to drive again, and he got another charge. And guess what happens then? Then you start moving up that ladder to something more harmful, to lose your license on a permanent basis or require to have certain issues. These are the things that happened to people that get into that door over there. And we got to prevent those things. And one way to do that is allowing them opportunity to earn an income to support their families. We have far too many children that go without because they have a father that is in that jail that could be working and is not working because of incidents like this right here. So I've already mentioned several times, and I'll continue to do that because we have to make sure that all of our community is on board. We have to have something for everyone, and that's why we constantly talk about the financing, because financing is a big part of that as well. The program's cost savings could be incredible, but my hope is to take that cost savings to reinvest that into some of the needs that we need to provide these services. Again, this will eliminate the cost barrier that I believe creates this two-tier justice system that we sometimes have. We're estimating that includes costs associated with supervisions and wraparound services, and that figure is going to be a realistic figure. Next, I will talk about the Macon-Bibb program. In addition to moving eligible nonviolent offenders out of the jail, we also want to give those that remain incarcerated the opportunity to succeed when they are released. We know that they're all getting out of jail at some point in time. By the way, this is not a prison. This is a jail. This is a holding facility that we have for people that are going to court. That's the purpose of the Macon-Bibb program. More than 1/3 estimated of LEC inmates need mental health or substance abuse care treatment. River Edge Behavioral Care already provides some of those services. However, our new Justice and Wellness Task Force will research the best practices and make recommendations to enhance and expand this program. This work will begin immediately, and our administration will fully support this work in any way we can. The InReach expands pre-release planning, continuing of care, and connections to housing, treatment, and jobs. That's important. Many of these folks are unhoused, and we have to make sure when they get released they have opportunities and know where they get the resources at and where they can stay at so they don't become repeat offenders. So that's a program that already exists in Shell, but we want to make sure that we can do better. And this task force will be taking steps to do that by visiting places that are doing it better. Next, I'll talk about the jail-based competency restoration. This is a rather new law that was passed a couple of years ago that has shown great success in other jurisdictions. I can think of several of those, including Chatham County, that I look forward to visiting in the very near future, but also with our relationships with the state, with relationships that we have on the state boards. This opens up so many doors to share best practices, and also there's funding available for many of these instances. Some of these inmates remain in the LLC for long periods of time, waiting for evaluations to determine whether or not they're competent to stand trial. Some of those, as District Attorney Howard and I have communicated about, not only after they get evaluated, they wait for years to get placed while they stay and linger in our jail. This program will address needs of inmates found incompetent to stand trial, or IST, reduces costly and slow transfers to state hospital when needed. It brings mental health care to the jail. It's modeled after successful programs that we've discussed, but those include Fulton, Cobb, Chatham, and even Dodge counties. The Justice and Wellness Task Force will research these best practices and make recommendations for this program. So let's talk a little bit about fiscal and public safety benefits. Again, this saves money by reducing unnecessary incarceration for individuals that could be working. It reduces recidivism, which ample data has supported. It allows reinvestment in prevention, treatment, housing, and economic development and opportunities. So finally, I want to talk to you today about the final item on the agenda. And I have in my hand here a copy of an RFQ. That RFQ has been filed today, and you'll be able to look at that online shortly. We are moving forward with getting people, those who have committed nonviolent offenses, who may already serve more time than required, out of their cells and back home to their families, allowing them to work and support their families. We're ending the two-tiered justice system, which currently lets people with means avoid jail time and those who can't afford bonds sit in the jails. We're going to help people who are currently in the LEC get more help that they need. We're going to help the people that need us most, that lost in the justice system, get the justice they deserve. And while all that is happening, we'll be working on the LEC itself. Later today, as a matter of fact, it should be right now, a request for qualifications will be issued for companies to bid on the expansion and upgrades of the Law Enforcement Center. We took our tour several weeks ago with the sheriff and his team, as well as our commissioners, to see the conditions for ourselves and to really drive home what we've been discussing. That's a new facility expansion that's going to be part of the solution. But we needed to do something about the facility, expanding and space and making significant upgrades. This RFQ is the first step. We'll have information within the next couple weeks of those who are qualified to participate. And then the next phase of that will be an RFP process whereby architectural design and the cost estimates will be done so it can be presented to the commission. So in closing, I want to tell you that there's no question that these initiatives can be and will be successful. They must be successful, and I'm confident that because I'm confident in this team standing behind me and this team that's in this audience today. I also like to inform the media that I am open to take questions live as soon as this press conference is over, and I'll be happy to take questions one-on-one from those involved regarding these issues. We have to move forward on the same basic premise, one idea that be a whole new way of looking at justice of Macon-Bibb. Justice isn't just about who we lock up. It's about who we help and how we invest in our lasting public safety. We have done it this way before with our Macon Violence Prevention Program. We'll do it again, and the results will be the same. This is a bold move for sure, but Macon-Bibb County is a very bold community. So I thank you for being here today. I look forward to working with each and every one of those on this task force, our Macon Violence Prevention Program, and those of you sitting at home that know that public safety continues to be our top priority. So at this time, I'll allow our task force members to sit down or go back to their jobs if they need to be, because I know they have very busy schedules, and I'll answer questions from the media at this time about this program or about things at the jail. So we'll go ahead and begin that now. Thank you, guys. Questions from media?
Yeah, oh, the mic is on. Hi, William Bazone for WGXA News. Mayor, my question to you is, of the six new policies that you guys are implementing, which one do you feel is the most important to you as the mayor?
Each of these are equally important. It's hard to distinguish between numbers 1 through 6. I will tell you the most immediate will be the inmate audit that many of our task force members have already begun to do, which I think is significant to know why the person is incarcerated, how long they've been incarcerated, are there services that need to be provided to them, and are they one of those that could be considered a nonviolent offender that could be released on electronic monitoring. Of course, today we're already rolling out the RFQ, so that will begin today, the process on the new expansion of the jail, and we'll get those prices to bring back to the commission. But each of these are very important to each other. They all work together. Addressing the mental health needs, this is not just a Macon-Bibb County thing. This is a United States of America thing. We're grossly underserved on our mental health, and of course the state of Georgia lags way behind. That's why I'm glad that we have partners like the state that's going to be fully cooperating with us on this issue and give us the expertise and guidance that we need. Next question.
Thanks, Mayor. What's going to happen to the land that was purchased for the new jail that's not going to be a new jail now?
Well, first of all, we haven't said that it's not going to be a new jail. What we're saying, in the most immediate thing that we can do to act very swiftly is to make sure we look at doing an expansion on the current premises. Once we get those figures and know how much it's going to cost to do that, how that affects our budget for SPLOST and other things and our debt services, we'll begin to look at what the future needs may be for Bibb County. Quite honestly, eventually there will be a new jail built. That property there is an ideal location for that property, and certainly you could do a phased approach later on. But our most important thing now is to address the immediate needs that we have with the expansion of the jail.
How quickly do you think the up to 100 inmates could get ankle monitors? I know you said that it's starting this week.
Well, that's a good question. I think working together with our court system, I think some of the ways that we can address that very quickly is to during this inmate audit, it's going to show how many people have been there 30, 60 days with a very minimal bond. So when a judge gives a bond, that tells me that, number one, that bond signifies they're not a flight risk or a risk to the public that that's not compensated by the bond. So in that respect, we will let somebody out of a bond situation with electronic monitoring only if they can get a job or go through one of our programs, if they're physically able to do so. So I think that is the first immediate step that we can do. There are several that are on probation that we'll be talking to the court about. One good thing about having the members of the task force that we have on there with the vast experience that they cover is knowing the processes and how they work. For example, this group can get together to make significant changes on how we do our probation violations to make sure that when someone is arrested for a new charge, we can expedite that process, whether it's a technical violation or whether there's new charges. From time to time, I've had conversations with our DA about we may have somebody on a very minor probation violation in Macon-Bibb County. They may get arrested somewhere in Atlanta for a drug case, and they get them out of their jail into our jail, and they sit here for about a year waiting on drug reports to come back in. So I think that we can start making a dent in the next 30 days on that number. The other thing it does is there are some counters that's coming up where people will probably be going to jail for minor offenses that can't afford the electronic monitoring. This will give them a sort of a pretrial diversion. So I can think we'll start counting some numbers on that this week, but we first must do our inmate audit first. Also, I need the expertise of the DA and the solicitor, the people that know these individuals at the jail, to make sure that just because they look good on paper, make sure there's not going to be something that we have to worry about that we may not know off the record. So they'll participate in that process, they'll approve any lists, and of course the judge will be granting the orders. Next question.
With the savings that'll, I guess, taxpayers will save with cutting costs, decreasing inmates in the jail. Are the prices for the ankle monitors also going to go down?
Yes, sir. What, you talking about for the county rate?
For a person, an inmate would have to pay to have the ankle monitor, correct?
Macon-Bibb County will be paying the fee for the inmate. Yeah, so we want to remove the barriers. If you can afford making the great salary you do at your employment right now, you can afford that, $10 a day and a $150 registration fee, then you could be out to jail, right? And the next guy that doesn't make quite as much as you do next door can't afford that fee. He may be in jail for the same crime. That's what we call in a two-tier justice system. It's something we want to prevent from happening. Both of them come with the pros and cons, but Macon-Bibb County will be absorbing that fee for the inmates that qualify for this on condition that they get a job or they go to their treatment, and that's something that will be monitored. How will we do that, you ask? We budgeted money in our Macon Violence Prevention budget already this year that will take care of those needs, including our mental health treatment as well.
Do you have that number off the top of your head?
The number we put in our budget, the total budget is $500,000. That's what we put in our budget for the program. It's going to vary from time to time. We were able to negotiate a no registration fee, which generally costs $150 per inmate with the company, as well as a reduction to about $675 per day, as opposed to the $10 a day that most people will have, because we do expect to have some volume there, and it'd be beneficial for all involved. Next question. So the RFQ is already posted right now. You can feel free to review that. We have a 2-week, I think, July 26th, I believe, is when all proposals are due, and then we'll begin to get the pricing for that. Once we get the pricing in architectural, that'll go back before the commission. If they vote to approve that, then, of course, we will allocate the funds necessary to begin the process. So I'm not sure how the whole process will take place. Our plan is to close a portion of Hawthorne Street, which is directly behind the jail. That will allow opportunity to remove a building that's there, the Higgins building there now, to give more space. More importantly, it will allow us to be able to link where we presently house inmates in the, I guess, mental health infirmary type, to kind of group all those services together. Ideally, we'd like to have at least 25 more bed space there for those that are not getting out of the jail that have some mental illness challenges. So that will be some of the first priorities, but we're going to leave that up to the sheriff. The sheriff is supportive of this. He's been a partner of ours on this from the very beginning, and we'll let him drive the train as far as that is concerned. Macon-Bibb County will continue to monitor the budget on that, but that's the location it would be going in, and we expect to get some prices on that probably about 90 to 120 days before we start getting some pricing on there.
With the expansion of the new jail underway, are there any talks right now about either closing down the old section of the jail still? Is that in conversation at all to address the conditions that are there in the short term and right now?
Well, conditions is a large word that's subject to interpretation. What this program would do by allowing people, nonviolent offenders, to get out, it's a lot to say. What the program would do is allow us to decrease the population of the jail, which will free up certain parts of the jail that can be addressed for cleanliness, any maintenance that needs to be done. The jail, having a new jail right now is not going to solve the problem. We have multiple issues to address, and if you don't address some of these issues in a brand new jail, you'll have the same thing. But right now, the quickest way we can address these issues is by doing the expansion, but it will allow the opportunity to perhaps move the most violent offenders to one location where they have more restrictions, to move those that have some mental illness to a location where they're protected and they get the service and the medication that they deserve as well. And then the rest of the jail, we anticipate we have less disciplinary issues. Keep in mind that inmates bear part of the responsibility here, and a large part of what happens at that jail is inmate-driven. This is not a chance to throw blame at anybody, because we all share the responsibility to making sure that our community does what it needs to do to address those issues, and that's why this team has come together to do that. We're not placing blame on anybody. We recognize that we have a situation that began during COVID, but as a team, we need to step up and do what we need to do, and we plan on doing that beginning today.
Hello, sorry, there's the mic. There we go. Okay, so I know you had mentioned that there was going to be an inmate representative on one of the task force. How is that determined? Are you choosing a current inmate? Are you choosing like a previous inmate? Or will they be compensated for this? Can you just talk a little bit more about that?
Well, we need to have an inmate representative there, whether it's a current inmate, family member, or one that has been in the system before multiple times that had various experiences with that. I'm going to rely on the task force that we have to help navigate that process with myself. They're very familiar with that. I'm very familiar with people that either are victims or people that have inmate issues there because they contact me on a regular basis as well. But I think this, I can't just tell you who we're going to put on there, and sometimes it may change, right? The issues may change. There's no compensation for being on this board, but we do realize that, inmate representatives don't have budgets and they don't have accounts that they can use or funded visits. So if we have to go to Chatham County, the expectation would be that we have to provide either stay or travel for those that are participating on that. And if we have overnight stay, of course, that would happen as well. So we want to make sure that we remove any barriers for that inmate representative, just like we would for our own people. Sir.
Mayor, how did you come up with the number for 150 inmates to be released, and will the jail not be overcrowded after that?
Well, as of this morning, we have 1,018 people on there, and of the 1,018 people that are presently there, I can tell you how many are on probation violations, how many are sitting there on city charges, state charges, probation violations for felonies, misdemeanors, and how many have a bond they haven't been able to make for over 90 days. That's a lot to say. But how we come up with this is basically looking at that list, looking at the folks that we know that are eligible for bond, looking for folks. It's not just about the people that are there. We don't want to replace them with someone else, right? We don't want to remove people out this week and then replace them with other people that are nonviolent. So this gives an opportunity for a pretrial diversion, especially for something like a state court where somebody has to go there for a period of 15 to 30 days. They can allow to be on electronic monitoring and stay out of work and never step foot in the jail. So the 150 is a reasonable expectation based on our initial audit of the different charges that people have that. Again, I'm going to rely on the DA, the solicitor, the people that know these inmates best, and the public defender to know who we can take a chance on releasing out or not. Ultimately, it's going to be the judge that signs off on this.
A quick question for you. Sorry if you already addressed this. In relation to this supervision program, you mentioned it kind of leveling out that staff to inmate ratio. Are there any plans to increase staffing levels as well along with this?
Well, that's always the plan, right? We just spent some of the school safety money on giving $5,000 increase in pay for new officers, and certainly if new officers go there after they're properly trained, there's incentive to do that. It's always, I know, the hope and desire of the sheriff, and he continues to do this on a daily basis to hire the most qualified people he can have. Staffing is always an issue everywhere in every job that you do, and it's not just Macon-Bibb County. So certainly staffing is always going to be, but if you think about if you can remove 150, 200 people and get back to a level of 750, 800 people at the jail, the staffing ratio is going to be already increased without having to hire new people. Certainly the hope and desire is to hire as many people it takes to run the jail properly. Thank you. Is that all the questions? All right, it appears all the media has asked their questions. We'll be happy to do any follow-up at a later time, and I believe the RFQ has already been released. Thank you, Task Force and members of the Macon Violence Prevention Program for being here today. Thank you for my commissioners for coming today. I guess you were in the building today or got the release. We appreciate you being here, and of course this will come back for you for a final vote when the funding requirement is necessary. So this concludes our press conference today. Also, there will be a sheet handed out to the media right now. You'll have I think a 2-page or a front and back sheet of what we discussed today and a little bit more information about the initiatives that we have. So this concludes our press conference. Thank you very much.